This is my hummingbird. So when I got this piece, it originally had moss and leaves all over it. Got it all cleaned up, put a mold box around it, and then we started mixing up and pouring the mold making material. So this mold box is thin polycarbonate that is like 6 feet long or something like that. I actually doubled it over and then used the clay and hot glue to seal that up. And also around the whole outside to the base is hot glue on the outside and clay on the inside, I believe is how I did that. And then we mix everything up and we want to pour into the lowest part of the mold, allowing the mold making material to make its way up and around and kind of squeegee out all the air so that there are no air bubbles right on the part, right next to the part. Also, notice I'm pouring in a slow, thin stream to try to stretch any large air bubbles and get them to pop while I'm pouring here. So a little background here. This came from a neighbor's backyard where I walk all the time and literally saw the guy outside his front door and asked if I could borrow the piece for a week or so. Super gracious, and just said, hey, borrow it. No problem, bring it back. And when you're done, I said, if you don't mind that it's a little bit cleaner, he said, that's fine. And so I just cleaned it up with a little bit of pressure wash and then coming in with the toothbrush and a little bit of soap and water. Nothing too major, but I definitely wanted to get most of the dirt and whatnot out of those really deep crevices that are in there, knowing that not only will that create an uneven surface but also that dirt can get kind of embedded into the silicone mold, and the next thing your mold is not a proper recreation from the original. The other thing, because this was a casting using cement and had been out in the weather for a long time, a lot of the sand that was in that cement had been exposed, making the surface really bumpy. So I went over it with coating of Ultra Seal, which is basically white glue, kind of watered down white glue, allowing that to dry. That also, just not that you need it, but it helps the mold making material to release from that a little bit easier. But the Ultra Seal kind of filled in all of the little divots that were in that piece just from kind of the weathering and whatnot. So notice this is 4 separate pours here all in succession. I've sped this up for you a little bit so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But this ends up being about 2 gallons of material altogether. And so what I like to do is I mix from 1 cup, pour 1 into the one side, and then back into the other cup. That makes sure that you get all the material mixed together. This material is awesome too because it has the yellow and blue makes green kind of situation. So if you have a little yellow or a blue streak in there, you know that you didn't get everything quite mixed, and you can get in there and just kind of mix it into the solution. It works really well. And then I try to leave the cups with that in there to cure, so that you can come back and leave a stir stick in there as well, and you can pull on that stir stick and it'll pull out most of that silicone right out of that mixing cup, and then usually just wipe them out with a paper towel and they can be used again. So not always, but a lot of times it is worth it to go ahead and do that. So we've got this whole thing poured. I went in there and just put a little bit of clay to make sure that it wasn't going to pop out of there or leak out of there. And now we're ready to demold this. So we've got the whole thing upside down. We can pull the top. That's where I use the clay to stick the piece down to the piece of acrylic. And then we have our masterpiece, so to speak, is going to be coming out of here. So we want to just break the seal. Just allow a little bit of air to get into the sides. We're really here trying to make sure that we don't end up breaking off any of the silicone into the small details of that cement casting. So we're going to be super careful and go around the whole thing just really slowly, just kind of allowing a little bit of air to come behind it. I have seen people use like an air gun or things like that to try to speed up this process. That's, just another thing. You just got to be kind of careful with that. But just starting off here, I think it's best to just kind of go around the outside really slowly, just kind of detach everything and slowly get this thing worked out of there. I was kind of testing it there a little bit and also just allowing a little extra air to come not just from the side but down underneath the piece. Again, working around. See if we can get it from this side, introducing a little bit more air underneath there. Okay, coming around a little bit more. This is where silicone is really nice because we know we don't need any mold release. There's no way that this silicone is going to be sticking to this piece. So with some materials, you do have to watch out and make sure that you have that mold release on there. But with silicone, generally you're going to be just fine, especially using that ultra seal and making a really smooth surface. So here we go, pulling up our silicone. This is a platinum silicone mold coming off of the original. And there he is. Alright, so now he's ready to go back to his original location, back home as it were. Made a couple of repairs along the edge there. And now our mold is ready for casting. And let's see here. We'll get this. I like to just let this sit for a while, good 8 hours, maybe overnight, and just let it continue to cure. And then here it is with our first castings in there. This is bronze powder with the quick cast behind it. And the one on the right is a quick cast that I pulled early and I wrapped it around a foam roller to bring a more lifelike appearance. And there it is back home.